Hi, my name is Emma. I'm 15, and this is my story. I will tell you how my parents hid the biggest secret of my entire life. Trust me, it will shock you. Firstly, I'm sure you're familiar with the idea that pregnancy can be the most beautiful time of someone's life. Sometimes, however, this isn't true. My mom is a good example of that. She had to die so that I could be born. How awful is that? I was from an ordinary family. At least, that's what I always thought. The only thing that ever upset me was that my sister Haley, who is a year older than me, was my bully. Every day after school, instead of relaxing and doing my homework in a calm environment, I would have to hear, "Just look at yourself in the mirror. No one will ever want to date a girl like you. No wonder you still don't have a boyfriend." It was terrible. The only mom I ever knew was a woman named Caitlin. She was my stepmom. Whenever I would go shopping with her and Haley, she would always buy Haley the cutest and most expensive outfits. My sister's wardrobe was always full of the newest clothes from famous designers. Meanwhile, I had nothing to wear but hand-me-downs, and Dad couldn't protect me. Mom was always in charge of the family. She made all the decisions, so there was nothing to be done. Along with getting the best clothes, my sister always got a large allowance and often received a new phone or purse for no reason. And she never even helped out around the house. That was always my job. Mom would often make me cook dinner or clean the living room. Whenever I asked why Haley couldn't do it, I would always get the same answer. She's a good student and is always studying. I know she'll use her time more wisely than you. At night, when Haley would go out to meet up with her friends, Mom would often order me to clean her room. She would say, "Your sister is popular, Emma. She can't help having so many friends. And you're free every evening. Surely you can use that time to help her keep her room tidy. I mean, you don't seem to have any friends to hang out with anyways." If Haley ever broke anything or made a mess in the house, Mom always told Dad that it was my fault. On top of that, our principal always used to lecture Mom about Haley's bad behavior, and Haley never received any sort of punishment. Mom never even told Dad about it. It was pretty clear that my mom loved my sister more than me. But before I go any further, don't forget to subscribe and hit that notification bell. If you do, you'll find out who's secretly in love with you soon. At one point, when my 16th birthday was coming up, I asked Mom if I could have a few friends over to celebrate, but she refused. She said that she didn't want me doing anything like that in her house. It was crazy. That was the last straw. Mom had ruined my birthday. For the first time in my life, I stood up to her. I told her that I would celebrate my birthday at the cafe and stay at a friend's house overnight. That night, I couldn't sleep. I was too angry. While I lay in bed, I heard my parents arguing. I snuck to the door just in time to hear my mom shout, "We should just tell her everything and let her leave this house. I won't tolerate her attitude anymore." Tell me everything? I had no idea what they were talking about. After hearing this, I burst into their room and demanded they tell me the truth. That's when Dad finally told me everything. The story started when my dad and my biological mom, not Caitlin, found out that they were going to be parents. They were so happy. As with any pregnancy, the doctors took precautions to make sure my mom and I were healthy. Mom's pregnancy was harder than most. The doctors didn't tell my parents, but after a while, they began to suspect that the worst was happening. When the results of my mom's blood test came back, their fears were confirmed. My mom had cancer in her stomach. She needed surgery and chemotherapy to save her life, but this would have been harmful to her pregnancy. The doctor called my parents to the office and said, "You have to make a decision, your child or your life." Mom didn't even hesitate. She refused to let her cancer be treated. My dad tried desperately to get her to change her mind. He loved her more than anything and wasn't willing to sacrifice her in that way. But Mom wouldn't budge. By the time I was born, it had been too late to do anything but try to keep her comfortable before the inevitable. 6 months later, she died in the hospital. That's how my mom sacrificed herself for me. Before she died, though, she wrote me a long letter and asked my dad to give it to me after my 16th birthday. Dad told me that after Mom's death, he was having a really hard time taking care of me on his own. So he married a woman who also had a young daughter and who he thought would be a good stepmom to me. I didn't take the news very well. I said I would have been happier growing up in an orphanage because I've never felt the love of this family. And it's true. I've always felt like an outcast. I stormed out of the room, my real mom's letter in my hands. I spent the whole night reading it in tears. No wonder Dad never stood up for me. He must have always blamed me for his first wife's death. But in her letter, my real mom told me that she knew I was a beautiful young woman with my entire life ahead of me, and that I should never give up on my dreams. She said she was sure I would turn out to be a successful woman and would always work hard for what I thought was right. This stuck with me. I knew I was going to make it, but for now, I had to deal with the present. And before things got better, they got worse. Way worse. The truth about my mom was a big shock. I sank into an awful depression and slowly stopped eating. First, I missed breakfast, and then I missed lunch. I only ate once a day and started obsessively counting calories. I drank tons of water to relieve my hunger pangs. Every time I looked in the mirror, I saw an overweight girl. I thought I was ugly and couldn't stand it. If my real mom had sacrificed herself for me, then I had to be perfect. I had to deserve it. By that time, I had developed body dysmorphic disorder, an inaccurate perception of my own body. Even though my doctor had always said I was at a perfect weight and I had never been bullied for my weight, when I looked in the mirror, I still saw an ugly and overweight girl. I didn't listen to the concerns of my friends and family. I started walking upwards of 3 miles a day to lose more calories. Yes, it was stupid. Believe me, I know. Dad started taking me to psychologists and psychiatrists, but it didn't do any good. I wasn't willing to try and get better. I ran away from meetings and came up with excuses every time. However, without any intervention, I began to lose weight rapidly. I weighed close to 80 pounds instead of a healthy 130-something pounds I had been at before. I had lost almost half my weight. I couldn't even take a couple of steps in my room. That's when my father decided things were out of his hands. Dad sent me to a treatment center where I spent 6 months recovering. I had an illness which was called anorexia, an eating disorder. My head was constantly spinning. I was always freezing. My hair began to fall out, and even my teeth began to fall out. I could have easily died. Anorexia almost killed me. In the clinic, I read again the letter from my mom. One line caught my attention, and I hadn't noticed it before. It read, "Do not let anyone or anything break you." I was so happy when I got to hold you. I never regretted my choice. These past few months after your birth was the happiest time in my life. Someday, I know you will also be a good mother for your own children. I believe in you, Emma. I realized then that my mom loved me and believed in me even though she was gone. I decided to get better, both for my sake and for hers. My recovery was slow. I even missed a year at school, but it was worth it. Slowly but surely, I recovered from anorexia and from the depression that had caused it. Let me know in the comments if you've ever had a feeling that your mom treats you badly, regardless of what you are doing.